What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Nick and I hope you guys are doing well whenever you are checking out the latest video here on the channel. Today, my friends, I am super excited for today's video. It is going to be another TV themed video here on the channel. This one is going to be something we haven't done in quite some time here, a reaction video to a brand new list that just dropped here from Variety.com of their top 100 TV shows of all time. I hope everyone had a good holiday if you celebrated yesterday. I know I sure did. It was a lot of fun. And as a Christmas gift to all TV fans out there, Variety has published their list of the top 100 best TV shows, something that you guys know I absolutely love. I love talking about TV, and I have scoured the internet for years for all these types of lists. I've seen so many of these, greatest TV show type of themed lists. And this one is sure to be another one that goes down in the history books. Could be really good, it could be really bad. These tend to be very hit or miss. And today we're going to react live here through this one. I am super excited to see. As you can see here, this one is as of December 20th, so it was just published about a week ago here. So this is brand spanking new, which is really cool because the last major publication that I remember seeing a top 100 for was Watch Mojo, and I think that was like sometime last year, and that one was all right. It wasn't perfect. There were definitely some parts that I disagree with naturally, but I think in terms of their criteria and the ways in which that they were approaching the list there, going with a more objective theme, that was a pretty interesting twist than you normally see. I do have some predictions as to what I expect to see here in terms of it being Variety, as well as it being so recent compared to a lot of the other lists that are out there right now. Obviously, a lot of people are going to expect me to want to have like shows like How I Met Your Mother on here and Modern Family. Those are my favorite shows ever. So obviously, I'm hoping that at least one of them make it, How I Met Your Mother. I'm expecting it to be somewhat low, though. I don't think it's going to rank super high, probably somewhere in like the 70s or 80s. That's what I'm hoping for. In terms of anything that's really recent that may have crept up there in the last couple of years that have now sort of secured their spots, I would say maybe something like The Bear could be up there, maybe Abbott Elementary, maybe even something like a Reservation Dogs if they're really going with more of the critical, sort of side of things. Variety, it tends to be very like pro-Hollywood, celebrity type of themed, so we'll see how that sort of impacts the list as we go through as well. And then as far as number one, most of the time with these types of lists, it's usually either Breaking Bad, The Sopranos, or Seinfeld, so I wouldn't expect anything other than one of those three. I would say in terms of what I hope it is, I'm probably rooting for Seinfeld in that case because I love comedy, but I wouldn't mind Breaking Bad or The Sopranos either. If it is something different, that would be really cool because obviously you don't see that very often, so that would be a really interesting theme that Variety throws in here. But with that said, let's just jump into it, guys. The top 100 TV shows of all time. I have not looked at this list at all. All I saw was the headline on Reddit and then immediately came to here, so I have no idea what to expect. It could be really good or really bad. The other thing I want to mention with Variety, you can see here with who actually wrote this list, who put it together, their team. There's a good mix of both men and women here, a lot of variety in terms of the, types of people, different backgrounds, different genders and such. So it's a pretty diverse list, and I think that's going to really influence some of the picks here. Most of the other lists that are from the major publications usually tend to favor men in some ways, usually tend to favor like dramas and stuff. So it might impact it a little bit more than that. And obviously now today, regarding just like, any sort of big, grandiose ranking like this, they tend to be more inclusive now, in 2023. So we'll see how that impacts it as well. But let's see here as we go through. I am really excited. That is a sick cover. As you can already see, we have some indications of what might be on here. We got, of course, Lucille Ball. We got Seinfeld down there, Tony Soprano. We got some Simpsons characters. So all the usual suspects here, nothing too surprising. Let's jump into it. All right, starting off with our number 100, we have Community here. All right, Community, not really a show that particularly I love. I do have respect for it. It's no stranger to these types of lists, but It's not really a show that I, have a lot of love for. I think it's a little overrated, to be honest. I'm just not a huge fan of Dan Harmon, but I do love the cast here. Like I said, this is, no stranger at all to these types of lists, critically acclaimed, so makes sense. If it's going to be on here, I think 100 is a very respectable spot for it. Let's see, number 99, we have Hannibal here. All right, so we're going with network so far. Hannibal's another show that I think is a little overrated, but I would not, it's totally passable to be on here. It makes sense. It was very, very popular nowadays. It's definitely one of those shows that, even though it was on network, it was on NBC, it definitely feels more like an HBO or, something premium like that. Number 98 here, we have Homeland. Homeland is definitely a show that I think, kind of got a big surge when it first came out back in the day. When did it come out? 2011 there. I was on for 9 years. That's pretty impressive. So 2011 there. So when it first debuted, I think it had a lot of buzz. It kind of fell off a little bit, didn't really have, the most sustainability compared to other shows, but certainly a respectable pick there. I'm curious what other Showtime shows are going to make it. I'm, thinking Dexter is probably going to be on here somewhere. Might be fairly low because a lot of people don't really love the finale, of course, but it definitely would be interesting to see some of their smaller shows like a Californication or something might pop up in here. Number 97, ooh, we have Top Chef. That is a really, really cool pick. I like that a lot. Top Chef, of course, one of the famed cooking competitions out there. That's really cool because you don't normally see reality shows or like unscripted shows. I know Top Chef is kind of an Emmy favorite, so again, makes sense here, but that is really cool. That is definitely something that you don't see too often on these types of lists. Number 96, we have The Good Fight here, another network show. This one on CBS, of course. Good Fight. This is actually one of my my parents' favorites here. That one, the spinoff, of course, of The Good Wife. Pretty interesting pick that's on here. Again, fairly low, so not too surprising. But this is another show that I think I was talking about earlier, kind of skews more towards women. So, again, we're going to see that pop up as we go through this list here. All right, number 95, Black Mirror. That's one of my favorites. That's surprisingly low, I gotta say. Usually you see Black Mirror fairly high on these lists, so that's kind of surprising. I haven't seen season 6, so it's possible season 6. I've heard more mixed things on it, but the peaks of Black Mirror, I gotta tell you, are some of my favorite episodes of TV, so really happy to see that one on here. Number 94, I May Destroy You. That's interesting. That's definitely very new. This is one of those shows I'm not super familiar with. I have heard of it before, but I couldn't tell you anything about the story here. But again, fairly low. It's an HBO show, it looks like, so makes sense. HBO, of course, known for quality, so that's super cool to see. Next up, 93 is Will and Grace. No list would be complete without Will and Grace. This is just a classic, very good comfort watch, of course, from the 90s there. Just an iconic show, iconic sitcom. Number 92, St. Elsewhere. Let's go, bro. St. Elsewhere, one of my favorite medical dramas of all time. Dude, shout out Tommy Westfall, my boy. I love St. Elsewhere, bro. That's awesome. That's super cool to see. That one also gets snubbed quite a bit on these lists, so that's super dope. All right, number 91 here, closing out the 90s. We have Daria. Oh, that's awesome, bro. Daria is super cool as well. Shout out MTV, man. If Beavis and Butthead is on here, that would be awesome. I do love Beavis and Butthead, but I'll take Daria for sure. Daria is classic, bro. Love, love, love Daria. All right, number 90, we have The Cosby Show. All right, interesting. It obviously probably would have been a lot higher, had this been made back in like maybe 10 or 15 years ago, but of course, this is going to be a controversial pick for a lot of people. A lot of folks, kind of distance themselves now from The Cosby Show for obvious reasons. As a show itself, and I've mentioned this in the past, it's totally fine. I don't have any problem with people watching the show just as is. I'm definitely one for separating the art from the artist. I know that a lot of people that I love that have made some of the most famed TV shows of all time are not great people in real life, and I get it. Nobody's perfect. Everyone has their vices. You can look at somebody and say, hey, their work and their personal life, you can separate them. I have no problem with that. It is just interesting to see that they would pull this card because I would expect that, again, being a very PC culture now, they would just completely distance themselves from it. But I respect the choice because it is very influential. It was a very groundbreaking show for its time. So definitely respectable here, but I'm surprised to see it nonetheless just because of all the controversy that surrounds it nowadays. All right, going into the 80s here, let's see what our next one is. We have Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That is a classic, of course. I definitely expect Sesame Street to be on here. That's another one I saw sort of in the previews there. But yeah, Mr. Rogers, iconic, man. Everyone grew up with Mr. Rogers, so classic stuff. General Hospital here. All right, we have a soap opera on this list. Definitely not what I expected to see. I know people that love their soap operas do love them some daytime stuff, and General Hospital is one of the most, it's the longest running, I believe, next to Days of Our Lives, so it makes sense, but again, relatively low on here, so not going to complain too hard here. A little surprising that it's above like a Black Mirror or something. I think Black Mirror so far is probably the one that I would say is too low, as I mentioned, but you know, General Hospital, respectable pick. I'm not gonna debate that one too much. All right, let's see what we got next. Happy Days, of course, dog. You gotta have Happy Days on here. Just classic stuff. Shout out Matt here. My brother loves Happy Days. Iconic theme song as well, so that's super cool. That's another one that tends to get snubbed more often than not. And so far with this list too, that's the other thing I was going to mention. It's a good balance of old school and new school stuff. I was curious how much new school they're going to be. Obviously, we still have a lot more to go, so we'll see how it pans out, but that's super cool to see. Happy Days there from the 70s. Girls on HBO. Interesting. Okay. This is another show that I would say is more, it was kind of similar to what I was talking about with Homeland, where when it first came out, it had a lot of popularity. You know, it got a lot of acclaim, and, you know, it was very well known at the time, but then it started to fall off towards the end a little bit, so that's kind of an interesting pick there. Not really one that gets brought up nowadays all that much since it's ended quite a while ago, 2017 now, so that's a cool pick. I've never watched it myself, so I can't judge quality-wise, but respectable for sure. Let's see, Columbo here, going old school with the detective shows. I like it. I like it a lot. Columbo, of course, a reruns juggernaut. I mean, every syndicated channel has played Columbo reruns for years and years, so that's super dope to see. Atlanta here. All right, we got some more new school stuff. Of course, Childish Gambino there. This is another one that is definitely more of a critical, darling there. It's got a lot of awards buzz, and I believe it's won some Emmys as well, so no surprises there to make it on the list. Number 83, Stranger Things makes it. All right, so we got the popularity vote in here. I mean, Stranger Things, honestly, I know people like to rag on it now, but in its prime, Stranger Things was amazing. Like, everyone back in 2016 when this show first dropped, you could not go anywhere without hearing people talk about Stranger Things. It really was a cultural phenomenon, so super dope to see it. Honestly, maybe a little low, to be honest with you. I would personally have it much higher, but I guess in terms of like the overall, all 4 seasons as it's gone on, maybe it's gotten, a little more hate nowadays, so makes sense to see it on the list, of course, so that's super cool. All right, number 82, Fleabag. All right, interesting. Another critical darling here. This is a show that I have more mixed feelings on. I've seen like bits and pieces of it, and it's not really my favorite, but it's probably one that I should come back and rewatch because I've heard just so many people love it. So 30-something, that's a deep cut. I like that. That's an old show from the 80s there. This in its prime was definitely a show that had a lot of people talking. It was very realistic. It was very relatable in a lot of ways. It was sort of the groundwork for like sort of a slice of life show back in '87 when it premiered, even before like a Seinfeld or something. It was a little more dramatic than that. Sort of reminiscent of like a Freaks and Geeks almost in that sense. So very cool to see. That's definitely a show that you don't really hear get brought up even in like critical circles now. So that's super cool. Definitely more of a deep cut for sure. Scandal at 80. Okay, going with Shonda Rhimes there. Scandal, another one that I know is like super popular as a diehard fan base. Again, I've never watched it myself, but I know just in terms of popularity, you can't escape it. Again, when this premiered, man, it was everywhere. So totally a respectable pick there. See what we got breaking into the 70s here. The Muppet Show, of course, old school classic stuff. I really, really hope that, like, you know, as far as the variety shows, you got to have SNL, of course. That's going to be, I think, later on the list. But the Muppet Show for sure. That's a thumbs up for me. I enjoy the Muppets. Dallas here at 78. That's interesting. That's appropriate because that's when it premiered there. Dallas, this was actually one of those shows when I was watching the Watch Mojo list of their top 100 shows. This one was surprisingly high on their list. I think it was like 25 or something. And that was like one of the first times I'd ever seen Dallas on any of these lists. If you go back and you check those old school ones from like the mid 2010s, you don't normally see Dallas pop up. So it's gotten a little bit of a cultural resurgence in the last couple of years to you know, bring it back into the spotlight there. So far also with this, like between Stranger Things and Dallas and even like a Scandal for sure, I think they are kind of taking popularity, kind of taking fan service into account here as far as the ranking too. So that could lead to some interesting picks down the road. Number 77, we have The Daily Show, Jon Stewart. Again, this is one that, you know, is no stranger to these types of lists. I'm more of a John Oliver guy. I'm not a huge fan of Jon Stewart personally. I definitely respect him, but his sense of humor, his style just doesn't really click with me as much as it does with other people. But this was definitely very influential, and it kind of did, in a way, put his, you know, brand of satire on the map there, and that's kind of the trademark of what late night looks like now. So he was definitely a trailblazer in that sense. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, 76. Another one that, you know, obviously not as much as The Cosby Show, but another one that some people distance themselves from in a sense. But The Fresh Prince, I mean, this was really the, you know, the stepping stone for Will Smith to become the A-list superstar that he was. So no surprises here that would be on. I'm actually surprised it's only at 76. I could see them really playing bold and putting this even higher because I've seen it pretty high on some other lists. So that's an interesting pick for sure. Let's see, 75, Taxi. All right, Danny DeVito, of course, iconic stuff. Another one like Happy Days. You got to include some of these older sitcoms there. Just an iconic show for sure. Deadwood here, 74, another HBO drama. Again, Deadwood, not really my cup of tea. I've talked about that before on my channel, that I'm not really a huge fan of Deadwood personally, but again, another one that had a lot of critical buzz back in the day, so no surprises there. All right. Got it at 73. We have NYPD Blue. Let's go, dude. Shout out, Dad. When I was thinking about this list the other day when I first saw it, I was like, I wonder where all the cop dramas are going to be. I know we got to see Law & Order on here. We have to see Law & Order. But NYPD Blue is just an old school favorite, man. This is just a great show. I've only seen a few episodes, but it's definitely, you know, it definitely laid the groundwork. It's some really, really good stuff. Very, very, you know, raw and gritty in a lot of ways. It just puts you right in the action, you know. It's just a great, great show. So that's super cool to see, especially this high. I would not expect it to be in the 70s here. I thought maybe we'd see it in like the 90s or something. We were going to miss it, but that's super cool. That's definitely a thumbs up for sure. We got the Wonder Years here, all right, the old school Wonder Years, not that bullshit reboot. Yeah, Fred Savage, man, just an iconic show for sure. Just a great, you know, coming of age story. 71, what do we got? Living Single, interesting. All right, so Living Single, there is some controversy with this show. Not controversy exactly, but, you know, some people would argue that this is the original, like, Friends or How I Met Your Mother. It sort of was the first show to do the whole let's put a bunch of 20-somethings living in a big city together and, you know, just make storylines based on them having trouble with relationships and stuff. It's sort of that, you know, blueprint there, but definitely for what it is, I mean, it holds up pretty well, you know. If you check out some of those older episodes, it definitely has its moments for sure. I'm expecting that Friends is going to obviously be higher on the list for sure, Seinfeld, but yeah, this is definitely important. You can't count this one out. It was definitely one of the originators for this genre that pretty much every sitcom under the sun followed at that point onward. All right. Oh, that's interesting, bro. The People versus O.J. Simpson, American Crime. American Crime Story definitely had a lot of people talking back in the day. I think this was the first season of it. I have not seen this particular season, but I did see the Bill Clinton impeachment one that came out later. I think that was season 3. That's a really good one. So I expect that, you know, based on quality, I'm sure this one is awesome. The O.J. Simpson trial, man, talk about a event that you had to be there for, just a cultural phenomenon as well. I mean, my parents lived through it, and they can tell you stories, man, that shit was just everywhere, man. Everywhere you turn, every channel they were talking about O.J. Simpson. So that's pretty wild to see, but definitely a respectable one. This is definitely one of those shows as well that's like just from the past few years, you know, a newer show that you definitely don't see on a lot of these lists that kind of covers the old school side of things. So again, leaning more towards the new school a little bit there. So definitely cool to see that. All right, breaking into everyone's favorite number, 69 there, Roseanne. All right, Roseanne, another one that's sort of been tainted to some degree because of its star. But, you know, Roseanne back in the day, it was extremely popular. I believe it was like the third highest rated show at one point or something during its peak. So definitely something that a lot of people were tuning into for sure. And you know, it had its moments, man. There are definitely some parts of Roseanne that get you chuckling for sure. So can debate that one. It's maybe a little high. I wouldn't probably have it this high up, but it's certainly a respectable pick. Oh, we do have Grey's Anatomy. All right, when we saw Scandal, I was like, I wonder if Grey's Anatomy is going to be on here. Well, it's Grey's Anatomy, man. I mean, next to like SVU, it's one of the longest running, you know, primetime dramas of all time. So you can't count it out. People fucking love Grey's Anatomy, bro. There are people whose whole personality is this show. So I mean, just based on that, you gotta have it included there. That's super cool to see. Even if I'm not the biggest fan of it, I mean, that's super cool. Again, taking sort of popularity and, you know, the fandoms into account here to sort of give a well-rounded ranking. I think that's super cool. Moving on from that, let's take a look. Oh, RuPaul's Drag Race, another reality show. So that's really interesting. They're really, you know, casting a wide net here. They got some unscripted stuff, they got primetime stuff, they got daytime. They're a little all over the map here, but this is super cool. Again, this is not a show that I really know that much about, but of course, everyone talks about it. This is like one of the most diehard fandoms in all of TV, so that's super cool to see. And again, kind of leaning more towards women again and sort of minorities in this sense. So that's super dope. Yeah, for sure. 67. That's a good spot for it. Bob Newhart. All right, so going back to those old 70s or 70s sitcoms rather there. Bob Newhart, of course, just a legend in this field, man. Amazing performer. Moving on from that, 65, we got Freaks and Geeks. All right, probably the best show to be set in my home state of Michigan. Shout out Michigan there. Yeah, Freaks and Geeks, man, just a launch pad for so many people's careers after this. Just so many names that, of course, came from this show. Definitely one of those that, like, people will say canceled too soon. But, you know, that season that we got, man, pretty special stuff. So, Freaks and Geeks, great show. The Jeffersons, all right, another classic 70s sitcom there. Yeah, I mean, Jefferson's iconic, man. This is another one, like, for these types of shows that you see pretty often on the list, I'm probably not going to have that much to say about because, you know, they've been covered in detail already. So I'm just looking for ones like the RuPaul's or Grey's Anatomy that you don't see pop up that often there. But yeah, Jefferson's is awesome. All right, moving on. Wow, we got Angels in America. That is a very interesting pick. That's an HBO show. Have not seen that on one of these lists, I think, at all, like ever, bro. So that's a first for sure. Don't really know much about this show. I know it was very you know, influential for its time, but not really something that has, you know, stayed the test of time, as it were. But yeah, like it says, monumental achievement in terms of the you know, directors and such, and talking about controversial subjects at the time and some stuff that normally didn't get too much screen time in terms of TV, in terms of prime time. So that's definitely an interesting pick there. Number 62, The Comeback here, Lisa Kudrow, of course. I know my mom was watching this show not too long ago, just like a few months ago, found it on Max one day and decided to start watching it, and she enjoyed it, but couldn't really tell you much about the story. But Lisa Kudrow, of course, is extremely popular, and of course from Friends there, so that makes sense to see. I like these deep cuts, though. They definitely have a lot of HBO, which isn't that surprising, but even like the smaller HBO shows they have on here, which is pretty cool. All right, number 61, Orange is the New Black. This is another one that my parents absolutely love. They could talk your ear off about this show all day long. I've only seen a small handful of episodes, but from what I've seen, this is definitely worthy of being on the top 100 for sure. In living color here, okay, another kind of variety sketch show here, of course, on Fox. This was pretty groundbreaking as well, mostly minority cast, mostly black cast here, and was kind of the launch pad for Jim Carrey in a lot of ways too. He was one of the cast members back in the day before, of course, his movie career took off, so that's super cool. I probably wouldn't have it this high personally. I think some of this stuff hasn't aged super well. There's definitely some bits that are a little dated, but just in terms of, you know, it's being a trailblazer and again, having that great cast that went on to do bigger and better things, I think it's important to definitely include in the top 100. All right, we are at 59 here. We have South Park here. Matt, I'm curious to see what he's going to think of this. I know when I did my ranking of the top 100 when I went through and did all the analytics and stuff, this ended up ranking in like the top 5, and I think Watch Mojo had it in like the top 20 or something. It was around there, so this is a little low, I got to admit. I would definitely have this a bit higher. South Park, very influential, but we haven't seen a lot of cartoons either. I'm curious if they're going to have more, probably more adult stuff. Obviously, The Simpsons is going to be on here. Maybe Family Guy, we'll see. Maybe even like a Rick and Morty, you know, could snag in there, but probably won't see a lot of animation just as a whole. It's kind of a subgenre that doesn't really get talked about as often, but South Park for sure. If you're going to include at least a few, you definitely got to have South Park. All right, The Good Place is on here. This is definitely a newer show. Came out back in 2016. I mean, The Good Place, me and my friends talk about this all the time. This is probably as close to perfect as a show could get. Like, there's really no obvious faults with it. When you talk about, you know, some negatives or any sort of, you know, just cons with shows, it's very, very hard to think of any that are just like out there and like, you know, in your face on The Good Place. There's not that many at all. So it's as close to like a flawless show as it can be. So that's definitely an awesome spot. Kristen Bell, man, shout out Kristen Bell, is an amazing performer. Yeah, great pick for sure. All right, number 57, we have Chappelle's Show. Dave Chappelle, man, what a legend, dog, in so many ways. But also just another one that was, you know, groundbreaking for including, you know, mostly black cast, of course, and the sketch comedy kind of in living color situation as well. Definitely a worthy show to have on this list. Oh, let's fucking go, bro. We got SVU, dog. Dude, that's awesome, bro. I was not I honestly, of my top 3 personally, between How I Met Your Mother, Modern Family, and SVU, I did not think SVU was going to be on it. I'm going to be honest, bro. I think a lot more people definitely watched the original show, Law & Order, that of course came first, and there would be no SVU without it. I'm sure we will see Law & Order a little bit higher on the list, which is definitely appropriate. I prefer SVU personally, but that's super cool to see at 56. That's actually a really good spot for it, too. I would personally have it a little bit higher if we're just talking overall, but just to see it on here at all, that's awesome, bro. This is another one that's geared towards women, and I think Grey's Anatomy, yeah, I can definitely argue is that well. So again, having that more inclusive, you know, culture, that writing staff definitely looking towards some of those shows that don't get picked as often there. That's super dope, man. SVU, that's awesome, dog. 56. Good spot, good spot. All right, what do we have right after that? BoJack Horseman, okay. I definitely, you know, again, no surprises here to see this on the list. I would definitely have it a bit lower. Even people that, like, really love the more hardcore, like, tragedy type of dramas, even they will tell you that this goes a little overboard at times, maybe is a little too intense at times, but is definitely a show that is worth at least watching, at least experiencing for yourself if you've never seen it, just because it tackles a lot of very, you know, dark and sort of depressing themes and stuff that, you know, gain a new perspective off of, I would say. So no surprises, again, that it's actually on the list itself. Number 54, Gilmore Girls. This is a classic from the 2000s, man. I definitely want to watch more of this show because I just love Melissa McCarthy, man. She's an awesome actress. So this is definitely one I want to come back to. But yeah, Gilmore Girls, I mean, it's classic. You can't deny it. There's another, in terms of like the sort of WB, CW sort of style shows, I'm curious if Buffy's going to make it, if it'd be in the top half at this point. That would be pretty interesting to see it above Gilmore Girls, I would say. But you know, it's definitely one that I think is worthy to be on the list. I really enjoyed Buffy. All right, what do we got next here at 53? We have 6 Feet Under. All right, shout out my boy Mike here. 6 Feet Under, of course. Michael C. Hall here is one of the leads, and he is incredible on this show. Jeremy Sisto from Law & Order, of course, being on here. Just a great cast as well. Yeah, this is another one that's like very, very few flaws in terms of its storytelling, in terms of its acting, its writing, anything like that. In terms of any of those elements, this show has them all on lock for sure. For 52, we have The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. This is surprisingly low. I would have thought this was higher, so you can kind of gauge off of that. Again, they're going more new school here, which is super cool. But yeah, Johnny Carson, I don't know if I've ever publicly talked about this, but, you know, for someone like me who grew up in the 2000s with, like, Fallon and Leno and Conan and stuff, I don't think that Johnny Carson's style, you know, is amazing. He's not like the, you know, they call him the king of late night. I don't think he really deserves that title, to be honest. But even if I don't, you know, love him necessarily, I think he's definitely respectable. He definitely laid the groundwork there again. Just in terms, again, of popularity, like someone who single-handedly sort of held the world in his palm there. I don't think you'll ever see someone in late night be able to do that the way that he did back in the day. So just you know, a token of an era that you don't see much anymore. That's definitely cool to look back on and reminisce on. 51, Arrested Development here. All right, another sitcom that, again, I personally think is a little overrated, but I am in no ways am I going to you know, debate it being on here, because of course it has a huge fandom, critically acclaimed, has won like 1 billion Emmys. So again, definitely deserves a spot on here, but it's just not something that I personally enjoy as much as other people. All right, so at this point, we're in the top half. We've seen the first 50 shows. We still have not seen How I Met Your Mother, so I'm a little worried that that's probably not going to make the cut here, which is kind of surprising, because I think, you know, again, those older lists, it could be, again, that inclusive, you know, theme might be pushing it out. We haven't seen Modern Family yet. I'm still holding out hope that that could be in it. Again, we haven't seen a lot of cartoons yet. We haven't seen Family Guy, so that's probably not going to make it. We have not seen SpongeBob. We haven't seen The Walking Dead either. That's another one that, you know, obviously I'm rooting for. I could see that making it. And as far as the overall rank goes, it's been pretty solid. There's not that many objections that I have here, except for, I think, Black Mirror is really the only standout that's like really low. But outside of that, it's been pretty good overall. All right, number 50, My So-Called Life. This is another one like Freaks and Geeks, where it was only on for a single season, but it made a big impact in during its time, and people look back on it as a cult show now. This is one I want to check out. I know it has some similarities there. It's like a coming-of-age story as well, so that's one I got to jump on. But yeah, again, no objections there. Really cool to see it. Number 49, Watchmen. Okay, so another HBO show. I'm not that familiar with like this franchise, this comic, or anything like that, but I know that this show in particular is kind of like the definitive version of it. That's from what I've heard. Like all the fans of it, like, because there's been a lot of media, like, you know, movies and comic books and stuff from that. This is like the definitive version of this story. So again, no debates there. All right, The Shield on here, number 48, making it into the top half. These anti-hero dramas, I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of these pop up in this back half here. But yeah, The Shield, man, definitely a show that is not for the faint of heart, I'll just say. Friday Night Lights at 47. What did my dad write this list? It is all his favorites now popping up here. Friday Night Lights, I mean, the quintessential sports drama here for any TV fan. How could you not have this one on? The Leftovers here at 46, another big HBO drama. Shout out my buddy Mike again. He recently watched through this show, and again, he enjoyed it, but he thought maybe there were parts of it that were a little overhyped, or maybe some parts that could have been trimmed up a little bit, you know, a little bloated in places. But for me, on the other hand, I just cannot get into this show. I've tried. It's just not for me personally. So again, probably one that I would have a bit lower on here. But in terms of, you know, people that absolutely love it, the fandom here, they will ride or die for this one. 45 creeping up here. We got the Dick Van Dyke Show. All right, this is an all-time classic here. Me, my mom, and my brother were actually talking about this show not too long ago, just like a week ago, debating between this and, some of those old school black and white sitcoms. I think this is one of the best of its era. I definitely think that it deserves all the recognition it's gotten, all the acclaim it's gotten. It was a launch pad for Mary Tyler Moore, who, of course, had a huge career after this. Dick Van Dyke himself, very, very funny. Very, very funny dude, did the physical comedy very well. This one just holds up. It's very wholesome, very, very simple family style comedy here. I really have no complaints on this one. All right, Star Trek The Next Generation. Yeah, another one of my dad's all-time favorites. This is a show that we watch with him quite a bit now because it's always in reruns. So when we're eating dinner and stuff, we'll throw an episode of this on. And it's good. I like this show. It's definitely probably the definitive Star Trek series, I would say, because the original... it's great, it's awesome, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely dated in spots, and, there's some elements to it that just seem a little too silly, a little too fantastical at times. This is a little more grounded, a little more, realistic there. It's definitely a great, there are episodes that are like, great analogies for what's going on in the real world that they sort of translate into episodes of science fiction there. So just an all well-rounded show. Fantastic stuff. Except 43 here, we're making our way down. The Larry Sanders Show, very underrated in my opinion. Really cool to see this high. Just a really, really funny idea for a show. It's kind of like very meta in a lot of ways. He hosts a late night show, so there's a lot of like celebrity guests and cameos and all sorts of stuff there. This was just a 90s classic, and it really helped put HBO on the map. This was one of their first shows that really took off and really put them on in terms of like this premium channel, with bigger and more elaborate stuff than you'd see on network, even before like The Sopranos and stuff this came out. So very, very cool to see that high. The Americans, all right, FX here. This is a classic, man. The Americans, this is one of those shows that I absolutely love. I've only seen just a small handful of episodes, but it's definitely one I want to get back to soon because this show is incredible. It's got amazing action. The story is awesome. The acting is phenomenal. Here are some of the best acting on TV. If you've never watched this, you got to check it out, man. It's awesome. All right, number 41 here, The Real World. That's interesting. Again, we have a reality show. I mean, in terms of reality shows, like this is the big one here. This is the one that kind of started it all. This is like the American Idol of reality TV in terms of just throwing strangers into a house and letting them live together. This inspired, Big Brother and even like Survivor to some degree, where it's just, strangers living in this, place together and having to interact with one another. So definitely a very influential, very groundbreaking show. And, handled itself with certain topics as well at the time, very gracefully, I would say. So definitely a thumbs up for me there. 41, maybe a little high for some people, but I think just in terms of its influence, definitely deserves a spot here. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Okay, so we did see Buffy there. I told you. Again, a little surprising to see it above Gilmore Girls, but definitely a respectable show. I think Buffy is awesome there. Just super campy, fun 90s action. All right, getting into the 30s here, we have The Office. Ooh, 39. That is surprising because I would have expected this to be maybe a top 10. I think that The Office, just in terms of like its fandom and the cultural relevance it has, like all these years later, because it debuted almost 20 years ago, you gotta remember this, and it's still one of the most rewatched shows on streaming and on reruns and syndication. Like, this show's everywhere. So to only have it at 39, I'm not gonna lie, that's surprisingly low. I think that might be the first misfire we've seen on this list, or one of the big misfires, because they could have this really high. I'm curious, because I mean, I've stated this before, I'm not the biggest fan of The Office, but just in terms of like its groundswell support, I mean, that's crazy, dog. 39. We're gonna have to see what they argue above this one, because I don't know, man. I'm not sure how you justify it that low, but we'll see. All right, we have the X-Files here. This is one that, again, as far as its fandom goes, it's absolutely massive. Just a huge franchise here. Very, very fun sci-fi, but definitely something that I feel like if you're not super tapped in already, it's hard to get into it because there's just so much there. It feels kind of overwhelming, but it's a respectable pick for sure. I mentioned Californication earlier. I don't think we're going to see it here. This is probably going to be David Duchovny's only slot here on the list, but X-Files, again, as far as popularity goes. Can't really deny that. All right, Enlightened here, 37. This is another HBO drama. This one, I got to admit, I have not heard of this show. I'm not sure what this is. So it looks like it's another kind of smaller HBO show that wasn't on for very long there, but probably had a big impact when it was. So kind of in the same vein as like Angels in America or something. But that's interesting, huh? Looks like Mike White of The White Lotus made it. So that's pretty interesting. I'm gonna have to look into this show because I'm not too familiar with it. So, all right, Curb Your Enthusiasm here. Of course, Larry David, very iconic show. Rest in peace. It's ending here this last season. All right, let's continue on here. We're almost to the top third of this list. So at this point, we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. We got Late Night with David Letterman. In the same vein as Johnny Carson, I have a lot of respect for him. He's not personally my favorite, but you can't deny what he's done for the genre and for TV. Is definitely someone that you got to give your flowers to. ER, wow, at 34, that's crazy, bro. I mean, I like ER for sure. As far as the, medical dramas, this is definitely one of the more, well-produced ones and well-written ones, I would say. George Clooney, of course, this was his jumping off point there. I'm surprised to see this, and this is actually a great response to everyone that's like, oh, people don't watch ER anymore. That show, that was a product of its time. People don't remember ER. Look at it now. It's above all these other shows. It's the 34th best show of all time. So I just saw, a bunch of lists, or I've seen a bunch of lists in the past on TikTok and such of like, TV shows that were big when they debuted and then people kind of forgot about them. And ER is definitely one that pops up a lot on those types of lists and in those conversations. But I disagree, man. I think it's always had a place in, the grand scope of TV. And to see it on this list is just, vindication of that. All right, let's see what we got for the top third here. We have Jeopardy! Let's go! That's awesome, dude. I was hoping that we'd get, a game show in here, given that we saw, RuPaul and such, and some other reality shows on here. So Jeopardy, again, you got to give Alex Trebek his flowers, man. He's one of the greatest game show hosts of all time. R.I.P., man. Just a huge, huge, huge legend there. I personally prefer Family Feud. Family Feud is my favorite game show of all time, but Jeopardy, man, is awesome. It's fantastic. I love the celebrity version, too. That's a lot of fun. But yeah, 33, that's awesome to see. Lost, all right, 32, Lost. Controversial ending here, definitely, but certainly a show that, again, a lot of people still are talking about to this day. It's just had such a great, sustainability to it, and the mystery elements is definitely intriguing to, I think, younger people that are looking for something to really sink their teeth into. I've heard this as well, that like this came out way back on network, on ABC and such, but this is a show that was meant to binge, so it really has translated well into the streaming era for sure. So I think that's really cool. And then again, shout out my boy Mike here, Lost here, 32. He might say that's too low. I think for him it's like easily in his top 10, but we'll have to see. That's a very respectable placement for it. All right, let's see here. Number 31, we have Survivor. Ah, man. I figured we might see Survivor here. I know a lot of people love Survivor. And this, no secret if you've seen any of my TV-related videos here, that I'm not a fan of Survivor at all. But it's super long running and, people love it, so that's cool. I feel like the sort of legacy of Survivor is what American Idol should have got, because American Idol is my favorite, reality show of all time. And in terms of its impact outside of just TV, being influential in music and, putting so many people in the spotlight and giving all these stars careers and stuff, all in all, that just seems like it made for a bigger spectacle than Survivor. And I think that's, a little more worthy of giving it its flowers in that respect. But that's just my opinion, of course. Everyone's going to have a different viewpoint there. If you like Survivor, that's totally cool with me. At least it's not, egregiously high. I mean, it's outside of the top 30, so I'm not going to complain too much. But personally, it just wouldn't be on my list. All right. Oh, Hill Street Blues. Wow, we have NYPD Blue and Hill Street Blues. That's awesome, dude. Another one of my dad's all-time favorites. I think, actually, this might be his favorite show of all time. So shout out, Dad, there. Hill Street Blues. It's definitely, one of those shows that it had a rough start. I'm not going to lie. It's a great example of a show that got really good as it went on. But, the first season is a little bit hit or miss. It's a little bit rough to get through, but once you get to those later seasons, man, this is like some of the best police drama, you know, one of the best cop shows on TV for sure. All right, looking into the top 30 here. So like I said, we're getting down to the nitty gritty. I'm a little nervous to see what we have left because there's still some big heavy hitters that we haven't seen yet. So we'll see here. All right, number 29 is Friends. Ooh, first of all, having this above The Office, that's going to be controversial for sure. I know, well, I don't know when they actually put this list together. It you know, was released on December 20th. It's possible they could have had this working before Matt Perry passed away. It's possible they could have put it after. I don't know if that influenced their decision, but there's not a lot of people that I know personally that love sitcoms, that love both Friends and The Office, that has Friends above it. You know, I'm just saying, there's a lot of people that have Seinfeld above Friends, so that, I mean, I'm sure they're going to have Seinfeld later, but The Office, I would expect that to be higher personally. And again, I'm not the biggest fan of both, or either of them, I should say, but I think personally that The Office should be above it. So that's a little shocking, but, you know, Friends is definitely a show that's, you know, huge, just in the same vein as The Office or any of those other ones, like hugely rewatchable. I mean, all the cast, if you've never seen Friends, you know every cast member. Like, that's how big the show was, you know? So that's super cool. I mean, it's obviously, it had to have been on here, but I just think its placement is a little questionable. All right, number 28 here. Let's see, the Civil War. Ken Burns? That's crazy, dog. Dude, shout out Ken Burns, my boy. That's awesome, dude. The Civil War. This list is crazy, dog. I love this because it has so many picks that, like, you never see anywhere else. That's so dope, dude. The Civil War. That's awesome, man. Shout out Ken Burns. That's super cool. All right, next up, Twin Peaks here. All right, another heavy hitter for the dramas. Again, this is one that I couldn't get into. I'm sorry, I just can't, but respectable, right? That's the word I'm going to use for all these. I will always have respect for these shows that have the means to create a huge fandom, to create, you know, a storyline that resonates with people, even if it's not for me, because that's a hard thing to do. You know, that's a very difficult process. TV is very, very tough to get right. So if it can rely on, you know, a small but very, very dedicated group of people to always back it up, then that is totally cool by me. All right, let's see. Veep here. That's awesome, dude. Veep is so underrated, bro. One of the best HBO sitcoms of all time. 26. Yeah, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, man. That's super cool. Shout out Veep. All right, we're into the top 25 here. Oh, man. I don't think we're going to see How I Met Your Mother. That's like one of the few lists. I mean, I get it, you know, I get it. People didn't like the finale, whatever. I love How I Met Your Mother, but again, it's fine if you don't want to include it. Everyone's going to have a different opinion. It's just very rare to see a list of best TV shows without it, you know? I don't think we're going to see Modern Family. SpongeBob, I don't know, man. We haven't seen a lot of animated shows. All that we have for certain, we have to see The Simpsons, because that's a given. But outside of that, we've seen South Park and Daria. Those are like the only other ones that we've seen. So I don't know, man. It's crazy. We've seen a ton of HBO shit. So based on that, it's very well possible that The Sopranos beats out Breaking Bad because they've had so many HBO shows. I don't know, man. And we haven't seen a lot of AMC. We haven't seen Mad Men yet. We haven't seen The Walking Dead. If The Walking Dead misses this list, that would be crazy. But it might. I don't know, man. Dude, this is crazy because for as cool as it is to see like the Civil War or something like that, that means, you know, a show that potentially could be on here is knocked out. So I don't know what we have left. All right, top 25. Let's see it. 25, The West Wing. Okay, all right, Aaron Sorkin, classic drama. This is another one that's like for all the, you know, diehard drama fans, for, you know, dialogue-heavy, story-driven shows. This is like a must-watch, of course. All right, so that makes sense there. NBC MASH, all right. I can get down with some MASH there for sure. This is another one that my dad absolutely loves, and we've watched reruns together, and, you know, it holds up very well. I can understand why this was the single most watched finale of all time. It makes sense, man. It was a great show. All right, number 23 here. Oh man, my heart's beating. I'm not gonna lie. Carol Burnett, that's super dope. I like Carol Burnett a lot, man. Talk about sketch comedy that just, is so fun. It's just so like classic, man. Like that's the word to describe the show. Is just classic, iconic stuff. This is another one that has been in reruns for forever, and I will sit down with my parents and watch it. It's a lot of fun for sure. Carol Burnett, what a legend, man. Amazing stuff. The fact that she's still going too is really cool. All right, 30 Rock here at number 22. 30 Rock, I don't know, man. Like 30 Rock, I love the cast of 30 Rock. It's like built off the SNL, gene, but I don't know, man. I think it's pretty overrated personally. There was a tweet that was going around recently that was talking about 30 Rock and why there's a group of people that think 30 Rock is objectively better, than The Office or Parks and Rec. Those were the examples, right? Because it's all NBC stuff. And their argument was 30 Rock is just funnier, than those shows. And I think in some ways, like I'm a comedy guy, I love shows that just emphasize the comedy, emphasize the humor. But in terms of making a show sustainable and making it something that like has lasting appeal that future generations can watch over and over again, you need to have some of those story-driven emotional elements to it, and that's what Parks and Rec and The Office do better in my opinion. And 30 Rock, kind of labeling it as a sitcom and sort of formatting it as a sitcom, it doesn't really work because a lot of the humor is more driven based on like sketch comedy and like kind of farce humor. And that just is a little bit different in terms of the way that you want to approach that and the way that you want to view that. So I think my issue there is more or less the comparison between a show like Parks and Rec and 30 Rock because they are pretty different. But in terms of just shows that I think, just overall have more sustainability and longevity, I personally would not put 30 Rock above them, but again, that's just my opinion there. But I just realized Parks and Rec is another show we haven't seen yet, which is crazy. But yeah, I mean, 22, that is pretty high. I gotta admit, I definitely would not have it over like Carol Burnett or MASH. I mean, I don't know about that, man. Yeah, that's another one I think they kind of whiffed on. But again, that's just my opinion, so personally fine. It may be geared towards women as well, so interesting. All right, 21 here. Let's see what we got. Let's see, Game of Thrones. All right, Game of Thrones outside the top 20. That's pretty surprising. It was pretty rare. I mean, obviously at its peak, some people call this number one. Honestly, some people would say it's number one. Some people would say it's the worst show of all time, man, because it butchered that ending. I think 21's a fair spot for it. I mean, I like Game of Thrones for what it's worth. I haven't seen the whole way through, so I don't know about the ending personally. But I mean, Game of Thrones, man, at its peak, it had the world in its palm. So I don't know. That's one that you could debate for sure. That like everyone's gonna have a different opinion on it. So I got to bring in my boy Mike here, the expert on this one. We'll see. All right, Game of Thrones there. All right, number 20, 60 Minutes. Wow, news in the top 100. That's fascinating. I mean, 60 Minutes is great. 60 Minutes is. I watch some 60 Minutes. I like documentaries and news magazines and stuff like that. So I'm not against this one, but damn, dude, that's top 20. That's bold. That's a bold pick. That's interesting. There's definitely people who are gonna disagree with that, but like, I don't know, that genre is huge, and 60 Minutes was sort of the originator there. At one point, I think actually, you can fact check me on this, but I believe this is the only show to have like the number one rating of all time for like any given season twice that's non-consecutive. So like 2 different times in its history, it was the number one show. At varying like eras, right, which is practically unheard of. So, and that's definitely a justification for it being up here. But I don't know, man. That's surprising. I don't know. Kind of speechless on that. I'm not sure what to say there. But all right, top 20 starting off interesting. All right, let's see the number 19 here. Keep on going here. Playhouse 90. Wow, we're going way back here. This is way, 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 way back in the day. This is kind of like a Texaco Star Theater or something. Um, I wouldn't. Maybe you could compare it to the Twilight Zone a little bit, which is I'm sure going to be in the top 20 as well. Um, wow, that's shocking. I only have ever seen this on a top 100 list. That's crazy. It's an anthology series. It's very much like in the same vein as a Twilight Zone, in that every episode is its own story. But I guess just because it came before, it stayed in 1955, so that's pretty old. Dude, this top 20, they're taking some hot shots here. This is super cool. All right, let's just keep on going here. Described as the idiot box. Yeah, there you go. All right, the Golden Girls here. All right, getting back on track with some more, sort of standard mainstream picks here. But yeah, the Golden Girls, it's classic. Shout out Betty White, of course. Just a legend in the field. Number 18, maybe wouldn't have it this high personally, but again, I would chalk that up to it being more skewed towards women here, which is totally cool by me. But yeah, Golden Girls here. All right, number 17, Oprah Winfrey. Wow, that's interesting. A lot of daytime stuff on here. We got a lot of unscripted daytime shows. Oprah Winfrey at 17. That's fascinating. I mean, listen, again, daytime TV, that's going to be sort of something that's not really going to be super, it's not going to be for everyone. I get that. It's not going to be for everyone. But you can't deny, Oprah's influence just on the world is insane. There's never been anybody before or since that had the same power that she did, that can hone in and, her book club and stuff. If she recommended a book that was, the pick of the month or whatever, that thing would sell, 10 million copies, instantly. Her fandom was just insane. So, just in terms of, popularity, the fandoms, you gotta respect that. And then I think just in terms of being one of, if not the first black women to have, a top rated daytime show, that was pretty groundbreaking back in the day. And she's still considered just such a legend to this day. If she does a one-off interview or she does a special or something, it'll be super highly rated and it'll get people talking. So she still has a lot of that influence all these years later, which is super cool. Yeah, wow. Again, this top 20, man, they're taking some really interesting picks, but I love it, man, because this is the sort of stuff that, I've been doing YouTube for a long time. I've seen, like I said, a ton of these lists, and everyone tends to have the same shows, time and time again. But this is totally different. They're really thinking outside the box here, which I gotta commend them for. So I'm really curious to see what else is on here. For the rest of this list. We have All in the Family here. This is a show that's really grown on me. I mean, there's parts of it, that you kind of look back on and you're like, I don't know if that would fly today. But just in terms of, again, its impact here, it was the top-rated show for so long. I think it, holds the record for being the top-rated show for, 5 seasons in a row. And then, of course, Archie Bunker. I mean, one of the most iconic characters ever, so definitely respectable. I think 16 is, the perfect spot for it, right here in the middle of the teens here. All right, top 15 time. SNL. All right. I'm obviously glad to see it on there. One of my top 10 shows of all time in here. That's super cool. I'm a little surprised that it's only 15, if I'm being honest. I think Watch Mojo had it at, number 8. I would put it in the top 10, of course. It's one of my favorites, but SNL has not lost any steam, man. Just amazing stuff. All right, The Twilight Zone here, number 14. Another snub from the top 10. This top 10 is going to be really, really interesting when we get to it. But The Twilight Zone is incredible, man. There's just so many iconic moments from that. All right, what do we got next up? Number 13. Oh, my God. They're going Succession? Yo, that's crazy. I mean, Succession above SNL and The Twilight Zone? I don't know about that. That's gotta be the newest show they're gonna have up here. I doubt they're gonna have anything higher than that. As far as really, really new stuff from the past maybe 5 or 10 years. But wow, I mean, dude, shout out Succession, bro. That's crazy. 13. Holy crap. All right. There's no doubt in my mind that Sopranos is number 1. Sopranos has to be number 1 at this point. Sesame Street. All right. Shout out Sesame Street here. And then another one that I think you could totally have in the top 10 there. No doubt about that. But yeah, I mean, you gotta have Sesame Street. Come on, that's like just so crucial. Cheers. All right, Cheers is awesome, man. Dude, what's crazy is we haven't seen Frasier either. So if Frasier's above Cheers, I personally disagree with that. I like Cheers way more, but that's awesome, dude. Cheers, yeah. Shout out. Okay. Whew, top 10 time. Dude, this has been such a roller coaster. I mean, it's great. I really like the list. Even if there's some stuff I disagree with or some stuff I'm like really surprised by, it's just a fun list. This has just been a fun list to go through here because they're really thinking outside the box with some of these selections here. All right, so the top 10. So definitely know How I Met Your Mother at this point. There's still some huge ones that we haven't seen yet that might get left off the table. We have not seen SpongeBob. We haven't seen The Walking Dead yet. It's totally possible The Walking Dead misses this list, which would be crazy because that would have been unthinkable like just a few years ago. But yeah, I don't know, man. They're doing too much now. I mean, I get it, but still. So what's left? We have to see The Simpsons. We have to see Breaking Bad. We have to see Mad Men. We have to see The Sopranos. I'm trying to think what else was like super high. There might be another like game show or something. I mean, I don't think there's anything, or like a daytime show or something. I mean, Oprah's pretty like, yeah, it's hard to think of anything that would be above Oprah. Frasier could be on here. It would be surprising if it wouldn't, but again, over Cheers, that's kind of insane. Don't think we're gonna see Parks and Rec. We talked about that earlier. And then cartoons again, like, dude, there is like no cartoons on here. I think there's been literally 3. I think we saw South Park, Daria, and if you count Sesame Street, I mean, maybe. But yeah, that's it, like, and then The Simpsons. So, yeah, cartoons got absolutely snubbed here. Dude, I don't know. I'm not sure what to expect. Probably I Love Lucy, right? There's going to be some older sitcoms stuff. All right, top 10 time. Oh my god, Roots! Roots, that's dope as hell, dude. That's like the top like viewed miniseries of all time. I did not expect that, but that's super cool to see top 10. Roots, all right. Just that was like a miniseries, bro. It was on for like 8 episodes or something, but it had like 100 million viewers or some shit. That's dope as hell. Okay, let's say number 9 here. Mary Tyler Moore, okay, Mary Tyler Moore, classic. Again, this was the debate we were having, was Mary Tyler Moore solo or with Dick Van Dyke on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Personally, I think I like the Dick Van Dyke Show just a little bit more, but they're both excellent. Like, they're both so important for comedy and for sitcoms, and Mary Tyler Moore just as, you know, the first like real woman who, you know, was independent and stuff and really had her own show. Just super cool. Dude, this is just so fun to like, man, just thinking about that, there's so many great moments from it. The song, of course, whoop, cat. All right, number 8 here. Oh, dude, they got fucking snubbed. Seinfeld at 8? Dude, Seinfeld outside the top 5 is criminal, bro. That's crazy. So not number 1 there. So it's got to be Soprano. I mean, it could still be Breaking Bad, but given all the HBO, I feel like they're going to go Sopranos here. But I don't know. But Seinfeld number 8 is wild, bro. Like, come on. Seinfeld, that should be in the top 5, bro. They could be top 3. Okay, this is another one where it's like, what are they going to have above this? If they have Frasier above Seinfeld, that's crazy, dog. Let's see. Oh, The Wire. Okay, yeah, The Wire. That was an obvious one. We haven't seen that yet, so that had to be on here. Okay, number 6. Getting nervous here. Oh, shit. Uh-oh, my thing is freezing up. Hold on. Oh, my God. Number 6. Yo, that's crazy. Dude, is Sex and City above The Wire? Above Seinfeld? Dog, that's crazy. I mean, listen, dog. Sex and the City's awesome, bro. Okay, all right. I am convinced. Oh my god! You know what I just realized? There's no Law and Order either, dude. They had SVU on this list above the original Law and Order. Okay, that's a first. That's a first, dog. Because I have never seen a single top 100 list that doesn't have the original Law and Order on. That's insane, bro. Okay, Variety, dog. Shout out Variety. This is wild. This is awesome. And it's insane. And I fucking love it, bro. Because Sex and the City at 6 is so fucking out of left field, dog. I did not expect that at all. But I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you, dog. And I keep preferencing this. It's not a bad thing at all. This is like an excellent thing, right? The women here, they're putting their stamp of approval on this. And that's awesome, dude. This is a list that was made by women, that's made for women. And you know what women love? They love the Sex and the City. And that's awesome, dude. And I can't preference that enough. That is so fucking cool. It's so refreshing. It's so different to see. I'm just like over the moon here to see this sort of stuff because it's surprising. It's so different. It's so cool that, you know, there's a list with all these out of left field picks that's doing it, that's like putting its stamp on it, they're like confident with it. So Sex and the City, I mean, again, personally, I would have Seinfeld over it. You know, I would maybe even have The Wire over it, but Sex and the City's awesome, dude. Sex and the City's great. If you're a dude out there and you're like, oh, that's a girly show, give it a chance. Seriously, it'll surprise you. Sex and the City's really, really, really funny. But I don't know if it's top 10 worthy. That's a pretty fucking bold pick. All right, a top 5 times. So let's think about what we have left. We have to have The Simpsons. We have to have Breaking Bad. We have to have The Sopranos. We have to have Mad Men. And then, I don't even know. Maybe, I mean, it's possible Law & Order is still up here, but I don't think it's going to be that high. So, I don't know. We're going to have to see. All right, but those 4 I think are like a given. Come on. Oh, I Love Lucy. So that's the 5, right? I Love Lucy, Breaking Bad, The Sopranos, Mad Men, and The Simpsons. And that has to be it. There's just no other way it can't be, right? Oh my god, bro. Breaking Bad at 5? Dude. They're saying, oh my god, bro. This is incredible. That's so good. Dog, I don't know if I've ever seen one where that's like not in the top 3. I mean, it's still in the top 5, obviously, but dude, they're putting Mad Men over Breaking Bad. That's crazy, dog. Because I don't even know, dog. Like, I've said this before, right? And I've gotten heat for this, right? I think Breaking Bad's a little overrated. It's still amazing. It's still so fucking good. Breaking Bad is incredible, right? I agree. I don't think it should be number 1, right? But that opens the door, man. Because it might not be The Sopranos either now that... Oh, dude. It might be I Love Lucy. It might be I Love Lucy. The Sex and the City pick opens the door wide open for I Love Lucy. It's totally possible. Alright. Breaking Bad, let's see. Oh, dude. This is The Sopranos. Okay. Alright. The Simpsons. Alright. It's still... I said from the jump, I was like, Sopranos? I don't know, man. Simpsons great. Simpsons amazing. Simpsons still, I mean, even the newer episodes are still so fun. Okay, top 3, let's see. Mad Men? Oh my god, dude. Oh my god. It's gotta be I Love Lucy, dude. I Love Lucy and Mad Men top 2. That's awesome. The Sopranos is amazing, dog. Dude, that misses number 1. This is one of the few, if not the only lists on this topic I've ever seen that doesn't put either Breaking Bad, The Sopranos, or Seinfeld number 1. This is just historic shit. Oh, this is so good. All right. I'm calling it Mad Men number 2. Yep. All right. Mad Men is awesome, too. Like, all these shows are great. Obviously. No one's going to debate that. So, dude, that means that fucking Frasier misses this list. That's so good. Because Frasier's overrated as fuck. That's crazy. Dude, the shit that misses this list is outrageous. Frasier, Parks and Rec, The Walking Dead, the original Law & Order, fucking Modern Family, How I Met Your Mother. Dude, that's outrageous. Dexter. No Dexter either. Dude, that's crazy. They only had one Showtime show on this list, and it was fucking Homeland. All right, it's got to be I Love Lucy, right? There's no way it's not I Love Lucy. There it is. I Love Lucy. Dude, I Love Lucy number 1 is so baller, dude. That is such a great pick. That's such a great pick, because it is so good. Like, no one can debate that. No one is going to debate that I Love Lucy number 1. That is awesome, dude. Shout out Lucille Ball, man. Amazing fucking list. Oh, dude. Great show. Great show. Whew. Man, what a roller coaster. All right, that was it. That was Variety's top 100 TV shows of all time. Dude, I gotta say, like, I didn't really know what to expect from this list when I first saw that they were doing it. This is unreal. This was such a fun reaction because it was just so unexpected, so refreshing, so many picks that I've never seen before on a top 100 list, or at least in the placements that they were. Like, I've never seen anyone go for I Love Lucy, but that's awesome, dude. That's so cool. That's so different and so awesome. We got like weird shit like Playhouse 90, 60 Minutes, both in the top 20 was awesome. There were some snubs, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm a little disappointed that No How I Met Your Mother made it. I'm in shock that they had SVU over the original Law & Order. I mean, I agree that it's a better show, but I've just never seen that before. That's super cool. And again, I have to preference this because I know there's gonna be people in the comments that's like, oh, this is so stupid, like PC culture, whatever. Dude, the fact that they're getting their voices heard, like women, they deserve to have a list like this that caters to them, that's like more skewed towards them because there's so many that are fucking guys. Breaking Bad, dude, get over it. It's not the best show. I'm sorry, it's not. Like, it's a great show. I love Breaking Bad. I love it so much, but it's so cool. It's so refreshing to see an I Love Lucy or something different up there. And a comedy too. That's awesome, bro. That's super cool. So what did you guys think about this list? With all the snubs too, like, I'm gonna have to make a list of snubs maybe at some point and post in the comments as I think about it more, because as I go through, I'm gonna be chewing on this for a while, the top 100 greatest shows. But yeah, this was one of the coolest lists I've seen in a while. It was definitely not at all what I expected. I'm sure you guys felt the same way. Really good list overall. A few things that I would change, definitely a few shows that I would have higher or lower, but as a whole, like the picks themselves, really, really interesting, very, very different, which I gotta commend them for. Very bold choices, but I liked it a lot. So let me know in the comments what you thought about it and where you would rearrange some of these shows and what order you'd have them in. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Like and subscribe if you haven't done so already for more TV content on the way very soon. Hope you have a great rest of your holiday season. Enjoy your New Year's as well. And I will see you back here with another one very soon. Thanks for watching once again. Take care, everyone.